I wanted to go a little bit as well into the leadership. And the leadership, I've really highlighted here a few roles. We had already a lot more to it. And if you look into the work from Anouk, for example, the guest speaker that talked about the Ministry of Infrastructure in the Netherlands, she has a lot more refined view on this, and you will find as well different leadership styles that probably are as well refined on the account of working for different virtual teams. Yeah, but for this is actually very sufficient. So additional challenges really for the leadership have here a few dimensions. So here, first of all, leadership responsibilities for the global virtual team. Really include here formulating a clear mission or vision as well. And if this changes, which is often does on construction projects, then you have to communicate and make sure that really every team member understands their role, how this is impacted on. Otherwise, the changes will actually impact probably negatively on your project. Or I had a recent comment from a colleague from the NASA, that they do as well a lot of construction for obvious reasons, to send space shuttles away and things like that. And he said, if a mistake goes wrong, they have a golden rule. Normally, whatever you're going to do is likely to make it worse. So, and with this in mind, the project managers are, of course, trying to consolidate all the experts on the team to make sure that the changes are basically holistically considered. But it's a difficult thing, and this is a little bit the plea that you should have in mind in that, at that point. So when we come to the next point, team roles and specific tasks have to be updated on that basis if you have a change. And it's very important as well that the team roles are kind of renowned to the whole team. It doesn't help if you as a project manager understand how the team should work. You have to make sure that the team members as well understand their roles and know where their interfaces are. So again, the protocols that I mentioned, this is literally formalized. In companies like that I work for, we actually had formalized it as well. If you remember Sami, the professor from Austria that had worked for Strabag, they formalized that for their construction projects. And there's a good reason for this. If you want to avoid misinterpretations, then this is a helpful tool of doing this. Timely and regular feedback to build team trust and commitment, and it allows as well. So if you have a conference meeting, allow half an hour first for socializing, and indicate it in the meeting. Half an hour catch up on general matters, and how people are doing, if they get on with work, or if things have emerged, in their side of things, and then you have the scheduled meeting that you are really going through. To allow for this coming into the rhythm again and getting feedback really effectively. Then a handling of conflict between local and global responsibilities and deadlines. Prioritization, we had that already. So in some cases you want to have everything formal, that you can back it up and say like, no, look, I copied you and you had the information. You cannot tell me you didn't. So there may be scenarios like that. But it may as well be that in a global conflict, in the worst case, you may have political disputes in your country and the internet doesn't work anymore, or there are major impacts that impact on your performance. And it doesn't really matter if they are of national magnitude or if they're on personal magnitude, they impact with your team member. And that is where you have to kind of realize and handle as well the conflict. So other members may be relying on the information because one person hasn't delivered. Now the whole team hangs behind on this account of the essential activity. And this is then, of course, a critical situation where you actively have to keep the spirit high. This is a very metaphorical notion, but it's keeping the motivation levels at a performance level, so that you don't slip that. Then defining the right mix of technologies to be used. There are different cultures as well to this. So Here, quick question: is change good or bad?
Good.
Good, good. Okay. Who thinks it's bad? So this is very simplified, yeah. But in general, is change good or bad?
Change is improvement.
Yeah.
Change should be, not necessarily.
Okay. Yeah, so it was very simplified, but you have unfolded it in the right way. Yeah, so change can be good, yeah, if it's a promise of something better,
Yeah.
if you're making things more efficient. If there's a promise of better than it was before, yeah, this is always a good motive. And maybe even making things more efficient. But if you're being told to change your way of how you're communicating, this gets kind of personal, and people take it different. Yeah? So we come back to the cultural theories. There is a diversity of prepositions to change. Yeah? If somebody tells you, in Germany, we are extremely technology fanatics, yeah? So if you're telling me you have to use a new device that's budgeted for the project, we will be celebrating. Yeah? Whilst, which one? I think it's Switzerland. I hope nobody. I think Switzerland is technology averse. They kind of like the newest thing, but they don't want to have it imposed on them. So if it's something that is shiny that they would like, then okay, this is over stereotyped. That's filmed now as well. But okay, the idea is that they are more technology averse, and just to get a new technology for the sake of technology, they are certainly not impressed with this. So their preposition to proposing a new way of communicating is actually that they are more conservative. Yeah, quite frankly, they don't like it. Yeah? So those are probably opposites, and there are many places in between. Yeah? So if you belong to the millennia, you're probably on the pro side. Actually, a lot of you have funky new devices in front of you, so it indicates that you are probably quite pro technology change. Yeah? But what I'm saying is that there's as well the other side to the coin. Yeah? Again, leadership means here as well self-leadership and team empowerment. Yeah, giving empowerment based on the role, yeah, to inform people where they are with this. Yeah, there is a big discussion at the moment around how much the responsibility and ownership of leadership should actually wander. So it's quite an interesting one. And then last but not least, knowledge sharing role model. Yeah, so volunteering as well your knowledge to the team if you think it's needed. Yeah, not waiting for a pull. Yeah, so the worst culture that you could have, and I have a lot of former colleagues of mine, they had that culture. They wouldn't do anything before you wouldn't, if you wouldn't ask them for it. Yeah, this is a toxic culture for a virtual team. In a virtual team, you want people volunteering the knowledge that they think is essential to you. Yeah, that you then can start a discussion on it. Sometimes the other team members don't even know that they need this knowledge. Yeah, this is a big challenge. Do you see the magnitude? Yeah, I think some of you had a game with me last semester that may have brought it out. I wanted to bring here up, we had those last sessions. This was like the emotional intelligence, relational intelligence, then what was, I think that as well, managerial intelligence, that's the word, of course. Yeah, but this is just a reminder, the relational intelligence in virtual teams is a real hook. For a project manager in particular, realizing, being curious about culture, being curious about building a relationship and understanding how people are actually motivated. Yeah, some people may be motivated because they like working with you. Yeah, they enjoy being on the team. Others may do it for the pure sake of their expertise. They love their profession. They want to perform well. Yeah, others may see it as accomplishing something as a team. So there are all these different notions. There are many more. So, just to get you started to think in that. And here it's really the ability to learn and understand and comprehend knowledge as it relates to interpersonal dynamics. So how can you actually communicate to keep people as well interested and maybe not make them angry, or something like that. A hybrid of social skills and relational health. Being smart about how we love and influence others, intelligent in how we engage our relationships. This comes from a paper. Now we have just read it out of context. I'm really concerned with how we love. This is not how I mean it. I meant more how we build like deep, meaningful relationships with our team members, maybe. So keep it simple and clean. So okay. This is where the ethnocentric intelligence, we had a little bit of that in the seminar last week, being aware of the cultures and how they may actually inflict or conflict, have as well a responsiveness to it. So it's literally the notion of awareness of cultural relativity and the ability to effectively communicate the intended message despite differences in cultural standards. So, and this is an incredibly tough challenge. This means you have to be very curious about the world and about your team members, of course. But this is kind of what we sign up to. This has been, I have actually broken this down into different notions of motivation, and then we jump a little bit back into the level 2. Within the dispersed teams literature, there is this notion of motivation levels, and we have covered this actually already, but yeah, the levels that are used in virtual teams is motivation 1.0 was motivated to survive. So you're either in or you're hired or fired. So this is basically the notion, and it's quite brutal. And on virtual teams, this kind of works in short term. So if you're consulted on a very short notion, this has an impact. With the motivation 2 is focused on punishment, reward, intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, includes work from scholars such as McGregor, Herzberg, and Maslow. We had them all, but I will remind us in a second of them. I hope I have it. Yeah, I do. And there is still relevance in them, and I'll show you briefly what I mean by that. But what you will probably focus on in the future, so motivation 2.0 is still relevant for you. Maybe not for you as an individual, because if you turn out to be a millennial, this is ambiguity grammatically, but okay, I'll explain this later. If you turn out to have already adopted a certain virtual culture, then it will be motivation level 3 that is most relevant to you and your team members. So, so modern organizations need to upgrade to motivation 3 based on the 21st workforce requirements for autonomy. This is, of course, 21st century. This is very important to say. Autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Oh, this reminds me. So, which century are we in now? 21st. Yeah, because we are 2014. So you always, it's like being. This is ambiguous. There's cultural preference. Yeah? So it's always the next big year that is being hit that we're in. Yeah? So I hope that makes sense. Yeah, but here the requirements are autonomy, yeah, mastery. Yeah? So this means you want to become good in what you are doing, and then of course and purpose, of course. Yeah? So you buy into the reasons why you're doing things. This is not necessarily true for generations before this. Yeah? So be careful. The categories are actually quite powerful. So if you tell somebody that you have hired on the motivation 1, hire and fire, and you tell them, hey, you are my master in drawing this sketch in Revit or something, they may not actually buy into this, quite frankly, because they don't see it as a powerful thing for them. So there's a disconnect between the different motivation levels. Here two references again. Today's organizational tasks require creative thinking, are heuristic in their nature, and are more complex, interesting, and self-directed than algorithmic tasks, which need to follow established instructions towards a single solution. And the second notion here is really, and this comes more from my organizational capacity research, everything that we can put in an algorithmic notion or tasks where we can normally automate and we can write a program for it, and we normally do so because it's in the long run cheaper. There's of course political debate around this, but we are really after heuristic, and as project manager this is something that you should look out for. So what has worked in the past, what works repeatedly, So it's an old chestnut basically from looking an adaptation, so where you may not actually be able to predict 100%. Yeah? Cultural barriers, this is a terrible slide, but I'll explain it in the next one. The classical ones that you have, of course, in a project team are power, thinking, time, relationships, space, language, emotion, action orientation, and environment. I have broken this down, so this was really just a list. So Müller, Spang, and Oshkan. Okay, yeah, anyway, but they looked at cultural divergence, and they kind of looked in the rubrics. And they kind of came up, of course, this is the old cultural chestnut from Hofstede that went then along with the globe notion, and they have picked 5 of them that they perceived in particular important to dispersed teams. So here really being a power distance, individualism versus collectivism, masculinity versus femininity, and long-term orientation and uncertainty avoidance. Yeah? So those are really the factors for you as a project manager that you need to watch out for, because there are, if managed wrongly, a recipe for disaster. So, wait a minute, I think I have that actually on the next one. Maybe not. Okay, let's go with it. If not, I have to go back to the slide. But it's important for the manager to recognize individual differences, yeah, and not basically play that socially out against each other, but kind of embracing the difference and manage it appropriately, yeah, building relationships that actually work and being sensitive to the preferences. Yeah. Use goals and feedback. I'm thinking already about the application, but I think I'll say it later. So allow employees to participate in decisions that affect them, link rewards to performance, and check system for equity. Well, what is equity? What does it mean? Yeah? And how would the money go?
How much you have in holdings, your equity, how much is available to you.
It's basically percentage based on work performance, so it's equally distributed. Yeah. Yeah, then you have additional, here we go a little bit into the tool null motivation, yeah? And we go here back to Maslow's old hierarchy of needs. You have, of course, internally needs, and they are normally on a higher order. So a lot of the virtual team members are normally brought in based on their expertise on a social esteem and self-actualization notion. So this is very important to recognize. So physiological conditions are often not the main driver. But this is, of course, as well an assumption. So you will see in meetings that this may still come out, but it impacts greatly on how they perform on your team, and you may not actually be able to see it. So there are, of course, certain assumptions. This is actually the point that I wanted to do. In a team of the lower order ones being seen as for granted. Safety and both physiologically that you have the right infrastructure. We had as well McKellen's 3 needs theory. I think I really have to go back to the other slide because I haven't refined it, unfortunately. But it's a need for achievement, so the drive to excel, to achieve in relation to a set of standards, to strive to succeed, need for power, need to make others behave in a way that they would not behave otherwise. So it's again the affirmation as well of your values, and what you kind of prefer in terms of behavior. And need for affiliation, the desire for friendly and close interpersonal relationships is of course there as well. So people have varying levels of each of these three needs. And it's very hard to measure, but as humans we are very good in adapting towards it and actually picking up on those. Yeah? So we had those already, but building really trust by creating face-to-face time and set goals and expectations that are achievable. Provide ongoing feedback, okay, this is kind of the bullet list that I had, and showcase team members' expertise. So this is as well that people know what they can rely for each other's work interactions. And then, of course, foster a culture of understanding. This is very important. So when you come to a hierarchy, well, what do you need actually in the dispersed team? The key notion really is trust. And that can be easily undermined. So if you have in your first virtual meeting people not having performed their task or their work package, then there is a very, how did you put it? You start with trust, and along the team interaction, there's a growing feeling for mistrust. So trust is quite easily broken in an environment like that as well. So it's extremely fragile. And you have to give, if you don't want to enforce like control mechanisms, you have to give the benefit of doubt there. Communication, of course, at the second level, and then the recognition of individual contribution. So making as well clear what has been contributed, recognizing the people for it, and allowing motivation over that mechanism. Additional challenges really between the virtual team is the notion of trust. We have that already as a big cloud floating kind of over the virtual team. Conflict has its pull. So we have already, I actually want to go a little bit back to the circle in a second and look at the different dimensions to make a little bit sense of what that means, conflict, and as well accountability potentially. And then the accountability with the roles, that it's clear, and basically as well responsibilities are put, and last but not least, people are in it, of course, to perform their skill. So you may actually have that people are having the expertise, we won't doubt this for now, but are not performing as what you have perceived to be expertise. So you may doubt their actual skill. This is a huge dilemma, especially in a virtual team, because this will undermine, of course, pretty much trust and accountability and so forth. There are actually solutions to this. One being, as a project manager, that you keep like the skills task separate until they are combined, and then you look basically if it fits. There are different forms of organizing this. It has to do with how you organize work breakdown structures and product or system assembly or array assembly. Those are the keywords that you want to use in terms of organization. Communication is as well a two-way thing. So encourage basically that you have a dialogue. Additional challenges. Actually we can still take it. So despite the potential difficulties facing virtual teams, the setting up of this new organizational structure maybe support organizations in reaching a number of corporate objectives such as that I ended now. But the key notion is, often it's suggested to start a new department or project unit that is actually separate from the normal day-to-day interaction. To really form it as an organization that people have a belonging. So this is just a task that you're getting assigned to your new activities. This is incredibly difficult. Then it depends really on the project manager, how he brings the team together, or she brings the team together, and how this is maintained. So if you can create an entity of an organizational structure, this is hugely beneficial. And then with this you have, of course, to recruit employees with the right skills, but who may not want to move. So you have here the advantage of all the people that really like to live in a certain place and may not want to move to the next project. You can, of course, tap into that if they have the right infrastructure. An integration of employees following an acquisition. This is a tricky one. I would probably advise against that, but this is at least what's written in the literature. Need to cut travel cost and optimize time management, so it's often as well cheaper, and leverage round-the-clock customer service. This is again the notion if you can hand over the task. Yeah? So if you have a team of 3 working on the same task and you work in time zones, this may be optimal. There are many companies that have actually optimized that. I know as well that a lot of design teams actually work 24/7 anyway. Yeah, so if it's an exciting project, especially if they're after in a design competition, there seems to be an unhealthy tendency to work quite insanely hours on this. Then you have increasing demand for reducing organization footprint with the traveling, and then demand for better life-work balance and integration. This accounts, of course, as well. Yeah, so this is actually not very well researched. This is a potential gap. But if you have a family and you want to still work on a project and you work on a particular expertise, you're very good in planning or communication, this is a huge potential, but it's not tapped in under this perspective yet. To combine maybe the work-life balance if you have like commitments where you have to look after somebody, yeah, or you want to make this commitment of being physically in another location and you want to separate it. There's a huge potential for this as well to be used this way. Yeah, and then I have trend, but I wanted to go quickly back to look a little bit at the cultural divergence, because this is a very important one for me. What does it actually mean for us in a project team, individualism versus collectivism? What does it mean if we have 2 team members on the spectrum that are on either side? What would they look for? What would motivate them?
So you're being rewarded as a person or as a group.
So here, if we say like we have achieved our gate 1 approach as a team, yeah, there may be the individualist will be, no, wait, I did my piece. This is why we have, well, it's not that drastic, but there's a conflict basis on that notion. So in one, you kind of want to recognize individual achievements, but the other one identifies themselves about belonging to the group, or having achieved something in a group setting. This is a very different setting, and it's a separate difference. I had it myself. When I wrote, I wanted to belong to a particular, it was actually called A-Team. This is slightly cheesy, but you don't know the A-Team? No. Okay, anyway. But okay, in rowing we have the same. You kind of, it depends where you start. With us in Berlin, we had a lot of rowers. So I started kind of at, I think it was G, Team G. And I wanted to be 18. And so for me, this was a big thing. So I identified myself very much about being in the 18. Yeah? So, but still, individual effort was needed before. Yeah? But people are different, and there's a cultural bias towards it. Yeah? It's actually often in the language. Yeah? If you speak a few languages, you can test that. What do we have here in England? Collective, individualistic?
Individual.
In what way?
Well, I think as you see that as in how the people work in their careers in, it's more focused on their own career and they want to get like as high as possible and as far as possible.
Yeah. So it's you negotiate what training you can have to develop yourself. Oh, that makes sense. Or you negotiate your work packages as well. As a manager, you negotiate your bonus. So it means as well that there are certain notions to it. Yeah? What is masculinity versus femininity? What are the associations with it?
Not the difference between man and woman.
Yeah.
So
But what is associated with it?
Well, the glass ceiling.
Glass?
The glass ceiling, like they always say that in the top management there's not enough women.
Yeah, but why is this important? Why do we have to? Why is it sensitive to have a good?
Oh, because in the society it's equally divided, so it should be the same in the company life, I guess.
This is actually not 100%. I think you're touching on the right notion. But masculinity and femininity has to do with the interaction, yeah, and the reasoning why you do things. Yeah, but is this what you wanted to say? Yeah? So femininity is very much oriented on integrating the values that you have at the table, whereas masculinity is actually quite renowned for logical reasoning. Yeah? This is at least the underlying mechanism. A mix of both is of course optimal. Yeah? But yeah, well, we don't often have that. Long-term orientation versus short-term gains, especially if you're in a virtual team, what would be the dynamic here? Yeah, it's in it. So in one, you may be on it for the whole project, but as a project manager, if you do the conception of the project, you may be out after the business case has been agreed. You may leave the project. A virtual team, we do that a lot. We bring people just in for their expertise. So they make as well probably trade-offs on that basis. Yeah. And what was uncertainty avoidance? What would that bring to our team?
Well, the amount of information you store and you share amongst each other.
Yeah. So it's information need, but what would be, so how would that show in our team members?
Well, some people would, without a lot of planning, would just go straight forward, whereas other cultures they want to more talk about it first and plan it really rigorously before actually executing the plan.
Yeah. So team members having different needs. Yeah? Japanese style, we just state the vision, we build a house together, and everybody's happy and runs off. Yeah, whilst maybe in another culture, we want to have as well the detailed plan. Who does what when? Yeah? What type of cement are we using and so forth? Yeah? So very detailed. Yeah? So those are very useful categories to look at your team members and familiarize yourself with. We had that, of course, in Anouk's talk. So if you're interested, she has actually tabled this. I think she ran a little bit too fast through it to fully comprehend it. But have a look at the slide and the literature. It's very powerful. Actually, I think 2 of you have as well written a paper over it. So maybe when the journal is published, and read the paper. This is even better. Yeah? So something to reflect on. Yeah? So yeah. But those were the dominant ones that Müller found. And he had quite a big variety of teams that he actually looked at. So it was quite interesting. Okay, back to the former slide. Where are we? Trends with the permanent global virtual teams. Well, we have now actually, trend to permanent global virtual teams is a dominant thing. You may find this already as a natural thing in your work environment when you go into the industry, or you may have seen this already. So global virtual teams were initially formed really to increase organizational speed and flexibility by leveraging organizational resources across geographies. It was a cost-cutting exercise, but leveraging specialist skills and concept of global virtual teams were used to set up global virtual research and development teams. This is as well what I have found already in 2003 in the industry. That was actually kind of the start of where this was coming from. With it comes, of course, we have improvement of communication technologies that drive really this trend, but the culture needs to adapt along with it. So I have actually another slide, I think, after this, where I talk a little bit about it, the culture of change that has been observed. I have a colleague in my department, though. She is offended by that literature, and I will tell you in a second why. But first of all, improvements are ongoing improvement of quality, reduction in price of communication technologies. Electronic collaboration tools such as email have been used in organizations since 1990. So we have it now really 25 years and have used it substantially. Inability of communications technology to simulate face-to-face communication. This is of course disputed, but it's still not the same. Even with, what do you think? Is Skyping the same like sitting in front of the person?
It's a hell of a lot better than email.
Okay, better than email, but it's not the same. Yeah? So, so what is missing? Why is it not good enough?
Physical contact.
Yeah, physical contact.
Body language.
Body language. Well, you can see it. You just have to ask him. Sit further away from the camera. I can't see your body language. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's literally the whole felt experience is missing. Yeah. So you have the emotions, but you deduct that kind of from the picture and the sound. Now the rest is missing. Yeah. Then reliance on electronic communications increases potentially for faulty first impressions. So there's as well a lot of I suppose this comes back to what we actually use the media most for. There's a growing body of knowledge, literature as well, that shows that often you give the wrong impression when you have a virtual communication. So you don't come across as how you normally come across. So there are certain different behaviors that are required if you want to communicate sufficiently. I named a few already earlier, that may can emerge. So, so what is the right format basically of virtual communication is the question. Then use of communication technologies may prolong conflicts as misunderstandings occur more readily because the missing of face-to-face communication means lack of contextual signs such as lack of body language, tone of voice, facial expressions, we had them. But a lot of this you get nowadays actually with our technologies, so the voice, tone of voice, and as well facial expressions, but still lack of body language. And then, then in 2002, they made the conclusion technology is still not available at a suitable price capability to duplicate face-to-face communication. We can probably communicate or conclude this as well for today. We have the virtual person that kind of makes a projection of yourself in your friend's environment, but not many people use that yet. Now, with this whole growth of ICT came a phenomenon called the millennials, and then, I think it's millennials. And my colleague in Denmark, in Via, was really interested in that, and we researched that quite extensively. Mostly on students and young professionals, and what was really fascinating was that there is actually a shift, that a lot of the people don't even see it as a communication technology, they just see it as part of their life and part of their behavior. So behavior and lifestyle being constantly connected via internet to friends and sources of knowledge and entertainment has led to a situation where brains have physically actually changed. This didn't come from us, it came from somewhere else. Compared to the previous generation, so there is a certain relatedness, and there was as well, there are many jokes on that account, new basic needs, internet, so that was the newest joke, but or was one that you probably find there. Then you have as well a phenomena called gourmet consumer, is that the spelling mistake? Okay, gourmet consumer of digital media, as they do not only assume technologies, but also expect high quality of media. So this indicates already that if you are not up to date with this, you create like certain elements of frustration. And this depends as well on your work environment, potentially all the technologies that are available to you. And then millennials do not see, and this is a critical point really, do not see life and work as separate activities. They take flexible work schedules for granted and want to learn self-management. Is that true for you? Do you like that? Would you like that idea? That you can that you can basically put your own schedule together for work? Is this good? Okay, one says it's good.
Separate?
Separate. So working from 9 till 5 and then... anybody else? So would you still answer emails and phone calls afterwards?
Yeah,
obviously.
But I mean, it's not like you work from 9 to 5, but it's not that you're really active during the night, but it's like checking emails or something. Just not too much time. So.
Okay, so in a way, I thought you just make here the case for not being part of this, but you have just justified the case.
Very good.
Yeah. So so, I think subconsciously that there are a lot that don't have this clear separation anymore. In the past, you left the workplace, and the letters that were at work, you wouldn't read them. No? So there was no service that somebody brought the letters that arrived late, or fax to your home if you didn't have your workplace in your home. Yeah? So this is a big difference. And we see this nowadays. Yeah? So this is kind of a normal thing for a lot of people that go in the work of world of work, so other way around. But so with this came the phenomena that my colleague, social anthropologist, is disgusted by. It's called the digital natives, and this is of course offensive on all semantics, on all three. Yeah? The is the first one, digital, and natives is another one. Of course, there's no such thing as a digital native, because it's a learned thing in the first place. Yeah? You're not being born into the, well, maybe some of you were, but no, actually I'm just joking. But it's impossible. Yeah? So it's a learned activity. But the findings under this were actually quite interesting. So, so they will not only take permanent global virtual teams as a given, a continuation of the way they have always communicated with contacts in their network, but there as well other findings with this, and they are quite breathtaking. It's first of all the known issues facing global virtual teams when working with their, and that is where my colleague is as well offended, older colleagues. There's no evidence that that has anything to do with age. That's a tendency though. Yeah, but the digital immigrants, organizations may leverage what could be defined as reverse mentoring. A younger mentor will teach a senior colleague on how to work and live in the digital world. So she was really just offended with all the implications of the literature. But what it came to is, we see that already, a lot of people that belong to that generation, the millennials, or certainly accountable as such, they're actually openly helping other people where they see difficulties with trying to improve. And so they often offer training for free. So you may do this. Yeah, so it means that when you see a colleague that isn't getting on with their social app, you say like, hey, have a look, I use it this way. Well, does it work for you? Yeah? And this is actually something very astonishing and very beautiful. Yeah, but be careful. So. There's certainly a body of academics that is not very keen on this. And last but not least, this was actually quite funny, this underpinned us a little bit. There's as well a certain stubbornness about the set of important assumptions about the organization and its goals and practices that members of the company share. Yeah, so millennials will not go back to work conditions where there is no internet. This is often unacceptable for them. So they're actually quite protective of that. And you may lose them in the team if you suggest that this was really surprising, but it seems to be a hygiene factor where people decide actually to change job. So if you don't have the right infrastructure to use your up-to-date technologies and tools, we could actually spot that people left the work and went somewhere where they had that. So this is actually quite impacting. We didn't have that before. But again, the millennials research is an interesting set, but I'm not quite sure if it helped up. Another thing, and it's quite sad in my mind, but we have actually seen in virtual teams a lot of emerging topics that are really concerning. But it shows maybe as well that many people kind of struggle to make sense with cultural diversity and not being grounded anymore. So it's the notion that if you work in a place where culture is extremely different to the place where you actually live and negotiate your daily interaction, you are consistently under conflict. And we have seen that the terminology under race and discrimination, but it's really cultural rivalry. So a little bit what we had initially as a fun activity in the seminar, where we kind of negotiate cultural value, but instead of recognizing that, look at the wonderful diversity that we have and addressing each one for the cultural values that they appreciate and basically honoring that, where we kind of compete on that. Yeah? So, and this is a phenomenon that happens a lot in teams that are badly managed. And then, of course, international conflicts are seen as, somebody is seen as a nation. This is, of course, dangerous because there are team members and they may have grown up in a certain country, yeah, but this is as well where functional organization comes in. Then a political rivalry, age diversity. This has as well a lot to do with accepting leadership hierarchies, and multi-ethnicity is another one that goes a little bit back to the cultural notion. So those are areas that are proposed to be researched currently. Then I have as well attached an internet tool. There's actually one that you can use for free to coordinate conversation. So this virtual intercultural teams tool, it maps basically out what we have discussed a little bit. They go as well in the same cultural diversity. So have a look and play around with it. It's actually a pretty cool tool, and yeah, it can give you a certain insight to those things. Any questions? Okay, we will explore the topic a little bit in the seminar. I have actually a game as well. Yeah, we could play that. I think we will have a fun exercise in the seminar. Okay, if you don't have any questions, well, if you have questions, I will be around to answer them. Otherwise, I'll see you later on in the seminar. Yeah? Thank you.